of silence to pray or as you wish, so we may better be able to do the business of the county tonight. Thank you. And we'll have our land acknowledgement. We're on the lands, no matter where we are in Victor County tonight. We're on the lands, the ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq people. And we express our appreciation for sharing those lands with our ancestors as they came over, whether it was 400 years ago or 2 years ago. And may we all live in peace and harmony on those lands. Thank you. And before we get to the approval of the agenda, I have it's not really a proclamation, but they wanted us to announce at our council meeting, at the beginning of our council meeting. I don't know how many of you have heard of this, but it's called the 1792 Project. It celebrates the 230th anniversary of a remarkable exodus that can claim not only to be the first, but the largest single exodus of African descendants returning to the continent of Africa. So this date, January the 15th, which is this Saturday, is an important date, certainly for people of African descent that came to our country. Most of them were Empire loyalists that had supported the crown in the battle in the U.S. They came here and weren't properly treated, and so a lot of them left, and it was ships going the other way on the Atlantic, taking African, Nova Scotia descendants back to Africa. And it names the 15 ships. I'm not going to read them all out, but it's also a story of resilience of 1,196 seafarers and the failure of community and government to provide safe haven on these shores for these black loyalists. So they wanted us to mark this occasion, and they're also going to be working with the schools. So if you could keep in mind that this Saturday is the 230th anniversary of those ships sailing back over to Africa and taking people back to where they come from. I wanted to bring that up before we get into the meat of our agenda. So with that, I would ask for an approval for our agenda, please.
It's Larry, so moved.
David?
Okay, moved by Larry and seconded by David. Is there any addition? Go ahead, David. Councillor Wadden, sorry.
Thank you, Robert. I'm just wondering, based on the letter, the email we received from our former solicitor, Don Fraser, today, could we have that added to the agenda, or perhaps we have to go in camera for that? But there's a lot of information in that email that I really would like to have discussed. I'm not sure if we can have it added to the agenda or not, but I would like to see us discuss it here tonight.
Well, let's put it in camera then, just to be on the safe side. If everybody agree, does anybody disagree with adding that in camera? Okay, we will have an in-camera session at the end of the meeting and to address that information. Okay, if there's any further additions to our agenda? If not, is there anybody against the agenda as presented? Okay, we'll declare that approved then. And we'll go on to the minutes. The minutes for both our November 29th meeting and our December 6th meeting. Is there any?
Darla, so moved.
Okay, thank you.
Don, second.
Thank you, Don. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve those two sets of minutes. Are there any questions on those minutes?
I have a question, Robert.
Go ahead.
It's Councillor Wadden. Thank you. Just on the December 6th, just a clarification on the December 6th minutes concerning the internet. I just made a comment that night concerning the Develop Nova Scotia that perhaps they didn't see our plan as well thought of as we did, and that perhaps that was why they didn't support it. I wasn't saying that I didn't understand why Develop Nova Scotia didn't support our plan. I was just trying to make the point that perhaps they saw something in our plan that we didn't see, because we have changed our plan a number of times. So that's why I was making that comment, but it wasn't that I didn't understand Develop Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions on the minutes themselves? Hearing none, all those in favor, or is there anybody against the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we'll declare the minutes approved. There's two pieces of correspondence received for information purposes. One had to do, I think, with the letter that we sent to the provincial government regarding keeping some of the help that had been given to Valley View Villa during COVID, and their response is that they are upping the or lowering then the level or the number of hours per resident, 4.1 hours of direct care per resident per day. So I think that's fairly important to our seniors that live in senior care homes for sure. But are there any questions on that or the other correspondence? Okay, hearing none, we'll move right along.
Sorry, Robert.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Robert. It's Debbie. Sorry
Go
about
ahead.
that. I had myself muted. Just on the letter B from Susan Matheson. I did receive a call from Susan Matheson over the holidays concerning the gift card, and she was quite taken aback by council doing that. She really felt that a donation perhaps to a charity on behalf of the volunteers on committees might have been more appropriate. In any case, she did donate hers to the food bank, but I'll really like to see this discussed at our get together in January. I think we do need a policy governing that type of action by council. Thank you.
Okay, and certainly if she wanted hers donated, and she did the right thing, she then donated it. Okay, if there's no more comments on the correspondence, let's move on to our broadband project update. Brian, you're on.
Okay. Let's make sure I'm not muted. So we'll have a more formal structured report from Digital Ubiquity for, I guess, the next meeting. Just by over the Christmas holidays, there's probably a slowdown in physical work out in the field. However, the second floor in the building, the electrical was completed there. The fiber connection within the building was run as well. The network was cross-connected in Halifax at the Halifax Internet Exchange. So the circuit work there was completed. In terms of the, I guess, second floor, the equipment for the room upstairs is scheduled to arrive this week and will be installed shortly after it arrives. Work in the field, Telecom or Plexus are expected back next week to begin the running and splicing off fiber. The included kind of in the field work, one of the reasons that they were, I guess, stopped was the bridge just down from the building. I guess they refer to it as kind of the gut bridge. There's a little bridge down from our building. The permit to cross that had not been received. That has now been received. We received a crossing approval for that area, as well as one crossing, I believe, the West River as well. So we now have those permits in from Nova Scotia Power, so they can begin the install across those two waterways. The federal agreement on the rapid network, or the wireless network, we received that as well. That's now been signed off by the federal government, and we're actually in the process of developing the first claim to submit on that as well. So all the paperwork was completed. We received it, I believe it was Christmas Eve. It came in, signed. So so that work is we're now able to submit for that. So some of the other projects, Hardwood Hill, we're just waiting for the electrical panel to arrive there, and then that will be that tower can be activated once we have the electrical circuits there. The pedestal is supposed to be in, I think, this week for the electrical there, and then that'll be installed, and then they can add the equipment to that tower, and that tower would become operational. They have been testing the signal strength from our building to Hardwood Hill, and signal strengths are good there for that. And we're looking, hopefully, they expect once they come back and start running fiber, they will start it. When they installed the strand, they started at the West River end and moved towards our building. When they start installing the fiber, they'll actually go the other direction. So they'll move out from our building. So as they get to certain points or junction boxes, they'll be able to light up people from our building to that junction box. So as they progress out, they'll be able to start lighting people up on that service. So the target is by the end of January, hopefully, to have the first kind of service lit up in that area, and have a few people testing the system for us. So, so that's really, I guess, the update over the last number of weeks. I can honestly say over the last 2 to 3 weeks, COVID has impacted the project, because there's probably been a number of people that have been working on the project have all been kind of taken out with COVID for a couple of weeks, or week to 10 days. So as it's in various aspects in different places in Nova Scotia and abroad. So so we definitely have seen the impact of COVID on the people actually working on the project over the last couple of weeks. So anyways, we're back. Everybody seems to be getting back into a regular swing of things this week, and there's a number of meetings and things that get the project kind of back up to full speed. So
Okay, thank you, Brian. Did you want to make any comment on the wireless on the towers, if there's any movement there?
So they're moving forward. First tower should be there is a tower to be built at our building. So the permit actually was received back on that. So that one should start hopefully this week or early next week. They should be starting to build that, put that first tower up, and then that's the link to also the link to Hardwood Hill.
Okay. I'll open it up to questions now. If anybody has any questions for CAO on our high-speed internet project, whether it be the wireless or the fiber. Does anybody have questions for Brian?
Don?
Go ahead, Don.
Well, while we're speaking about the towers, how many of the foundations have been poured?
At this point, none. So the first one will be our building is the first one, and then they'll move out from there.
Is
Okay,
weather going to be an issue?
Depending on the weather, the plan is that they would work through the winter on them. So really depends on conditions at the time. But right now, the last report that I had was that they will work through the winter to get the towers erected. So there's nine towers to be constructed and 5 co-locations. So there's 14 in total. So
Thank you.
okay. Are there further questions for Brian on the high-speed internet?
It's Debbie here, Warden, if I could.
Go ahead, Debbie.
Thank you. Just first, I was approached last week by a gentleman who said that he was contacted. He's in the Scottsburn area. He was to be asked to be a test site. One of the councillors approached him to be a test site for our new internet. And he said there was something like 22 homes in the area being requested for like 3 months service. And I was just kind of taken back because that wasn't something we ever discussed here at council. And it would have kind of been nice to know that before you're approached in the street, because not knowing anything about this, you're kind of left looking kind of, well, for lack of a better word, kind of stupid, because you have to get them to explain what they're talking about, because I didn't know what he was talking about. So I think things like that should really be rolled up to the council, so that at least we're aware that there are people being brought on board for testing by the councillors in those areas. I mean, we may have names of people in those areas that may like to be a test person. So I just perhaps in the future, if we're going to do things like that, make councillors aware that it's happening in the areas. Secondly, I'm getting a lot of calls over the last few weeks concerning the satellite service. People that have it down in this area are finding it very good. And there's a real concern with the amount of money that we're spending on this project. Again, you know, I understand we're trying to get internet to 99% of the county, but it's very hard whenever they're talking about the service that they're getting from the satellite service and how good it is. I think over 90% of them down here are really happy with the satellite service. And when you look at the length of time before they do get service down here from our municipality, it's very hard to support what we're doing at the costs. I mean, they're really concerned with the costs, and they want to make sure that they'd like to make sure that we're doing the best we can with, you know, but again, it's the debt we're putting this county in with the internet, along with the debt in the province and the debt federally. People are just getting really concerned, and I have to agree with them on that. One of the things also discussed was the rapid service that's coming with the county and the federal government. I don't think there's any towers in this area being constructed, Mr. Brian. That's they're kind of around us. I think Thorburn maybe, but nothing, I don't think, in the Little Harbor area. And people were wondering why this area wasn't selected as a site. I tried to explain that they were going with the best areas for transmission, but again, I didn't have a concrete answer for them as to why Little Harbor may not have been selected, where we're right on the water. And in an area like Roy Island, for example, they're up quite high, and so they're just concerned down there as to why a tower couldn't have been looked at in our area to perhaps speed up the service for Little Harbor, particular landing areas.
Do you want to, Councillor Watt, do you want to let Brian answer that specific question as to why there was not a tower in the Little Harbor area?
Sure.
Brian, do you want to address that? I know we looked at the high fiber areas. We were trying to put it where there wasn't as much chance of fiber being there.
yeah, so a lot of it is that the towers are placed really to service areas that would be least likely to ever receive a fiber to the home connection. So so when you look at the areas that are in such as any area that has a significant density of homes, that's really supply as well. They look at overall, I guess, height as well of the area, topography, things like that. So there's a number of factors that would have gone into it, but that the main one would be that area would be a prime area for fiber to the home.
Would that include the beach area too, Brian?
I believe so, yes.
Or
Yeah.
planning on fiber, the plans are for fiber in the beach area of Melmurby?
We'd have to look at it specifically, but I believe most of that area was covered. There may be, let's see, but the majority of that area was fiber to the home.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Brian.
Okay, did you have further questions? I interrupted you there so Brian could answer that one.
Nope, that's fine, Robert, thank you.
Okay, any further questions on the internet project? Okay, I'm not hearing any anyway at this point, so I think we're all wanting it to move along faster, of course, and I'm concerned with how cold it's going to be tonight. Be a little hard digging out.
Mr. Chair, it's Andy here.
Go ahead, Andy.
Just a question. I every month or so I get a phone calls from gentlemen in my district that they want better internet and they're wondering when they can see it happen. And I said, my answer is I have no idea. So what kind of timelines are we looking at for places like Sunnybray, East River St. Mary's, Eden Lake, in those areas? When will they see high speed, or should I just tell them that they should go with the Starlink service? Because I've been following that, and the services is there's a lot of good reviews on it. So I'm just wondering what's the best route for these people? Are we going to see any service in 2022 in places like Sunnybray or East River St. Mary's or places like that?
Yeah, I'll let Brian answer that as best he can. I'm not sure where the towers are located, our towers, in terms of reaching those communities. Brian,
So from a wireless standpoint, the target is still to have something operational for towers by March is kind of still our target. So to have as much of the wireless network operational by the end of March. So that would cover most of the areas of the county. There may be a few outlying areas that we don't hit, but the target is with the wireless network to have it as operational by the end of March.
Okay, so we'd all like to see that happen for sure, because it seems like we've been waiting a long time, so I don't blame people for asking. But I think we are getting there. It's just slower than what any of us would prefer. Okay, if there's no more questions on the high-speed internet, we'll move along to our resolutions. First resolution is Councillor Boyle's municipal grants.
Yes, thank you, Warden. Resolution, be it resolved by the Municipal Council for the Municipality of the County of Pictou. The Council approved the payment of the following municipal grants. Recreational Councillor allotments. District 1 Development Society, $150. Fitness Challenge expenses. Melville Seafoam Community Hall, $150. Event expenses. Hillside Community Society, $150 dartboards. Hopewell and Hopewell and Area Park and Footbridge Commission, $75. Candy Cane Committee and the Hopeful 4-H, $75. Program expenses for a total of $600. Council grant, BC Red Cross, $10,000. Floods and extreme weather appeal donation. Grand total $10,600. Dated at Hillside, Nova Scotia, the 10th day of January, 2022. Signed by myself, Peter Boyles, and I'm asking Dave Parker would second that.
So seconded. David?
Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution on the municipal grants, 10,600. Moved and seconded. Are there any comments on that resolution? Any comments or questions, I should say? Okay, hearing none. Is there anybody against the motion? Okay, we'll declare that resolution passed unanimously. And the second resolution is Sidewalk Design Award, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution, whereas the Municipal Council has directed administration to issue a request for proposals for sidewalk development in the area commonly referred to as Blue Acres in the general service area of Plymouth, whereas administration has issued an RFP in accordance with the municipality's procurement policy, whereas responses were received from 3 firms with the following cost. Harborside Engineering Consultants, $96,080 plus HST. CBCL Limited, $66,860 plus HST. And EXP, $108,818 plus HST. Whereas the Chief Administrative Officer and the Director of Public Works and Development reviewed the 3 submissions to ensure compliance with the terms of reference of the request for proposals. Whereas the Chief Administrative Officer and the Director of Public Works concur that the CBCL has met all terms of the request for proposal and provided the lowest cost proposal. Therefore, be it resolved by the Municipal Council for the Municipality of the County of Pictou, the Council accept the proposal from CBCL for design services of sidewalk infrastructure in Plymouth, not Blue Acres. Blue Acres is the name, is the nickname, at a cost of $66,860 plus HST. Dated at Plymouth, Nova Scotia, this 10th day of January 2022, moved by myself, and I'm looking for a seconder.
It's Larry. I'll second it.
Hey, it's you heard the reading of the resolution on the sidewalk design award for Plymouth, and it's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on that resolution?
Mr.
David
Parker,
here.
I have a question. Debbie here.
Okay, I'll take Debbie first and then David after that. Go ahead,
Thank
Debbie.
you, Mr. Warden. Just, thank you. Brian, perhaps you can just explain, and I know we see often a difference in the cost of the RFPs when they come back, but in this case, like there's $30,000 and $40,000 difference between the other 2 groups that applied. Do we see any major difference in why there's such a discrepancy in the differences or in their plans?
Nothing that stood out beyond estimated level of effort. So generally, like what we ask for is them to provide us a detailed breakdown of the personnel hours that they're looking at, and so some of them have different rates. So they some may use junior people more in the work, and then just have like an overall project manager that's overseeing it. So so it, some of it is in that, some of it is just level of effort, like the number of hours that they're dedicating to it. The firms say, like one firm may have 500 hours and the other firm says it's 700 hours. So So when we look at it, and I guess when both and Logan can jump in, he's more the engineer on this, but when we looked at CBCLs and the level of effort in the various tasks, there was nothing that jumped out at us that they couldn't do the job with what they had presented. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Logan, or?
Yeah, I'll echo what you said to start. And then in addition to that, some of the difference, Councillor Wadden, was made up in the geotechnical costs. And that's not uncommon for these types of projects. Typically, they're partnering with a different geotechnical consultant. And when they get into sub-consultants like that, costs can vary more so than with their own level of effort. So there was some difference in the geotechnical aspects as well.
Okay, so you still see this as a good study for this project?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dave Parker, you had your voice in there.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We've been debating this topic for some 15 years now. Do we have any statistical evidence as to the use of this area by pedestrians? Has there ever been a survey done?
Okay, I'll give that to Brian.
To my knowledge, no. We, in my time, we've never conducted any studies, feasibility studies, or counts in that particular area.
Do we have this is also to Brian, do we have a cost estimate for this project? I'm talking about the actual building of infrastructure.
No, so this is what this contract, that is one of the deliverables under this contract, would be to design and provide us the formal or I guess an estimate on build. So we had an original estimate that was completed by our previous Director of Public Works in the 680,000 range. I think that's the number. But part of this, the deliverables here would be to provide a cost estimate. And Logan, I'm not sure what level of cost estimate it was. Was it a B, Class B, or C estimate at the end?
I'm not sure what we ended up with, but I think whatever we do have is going to be influenced a lot by market factors with today's values as well. And so I think we did call for it to be to the level of a construction cost estimate, and whatever they have for a contingency, they'll break out as a percentage. So we can look at that, I guess, when we get to it. But it will give us the order of magnitude that we're looking for within probably a range of, what do you think, 15 to 30%. So it'll definitely be usable for tendering purposes if we end up going down that road.
Okay. Did we not have a response from what was then Department of Transportation Infrastructure about the use of their bridge going across the McCollum's Brook?
Go ahead.
My recollection is they said we could not use it, and there was an estimate for a replacement of pedestrian bridge, which at that time, several years ago, was in the high 800 range.
Yeah, so what we have, I guess the terms of reference that are issued here build on that discussion or that we had or response that we had from the department, basically stating that the use of the bridge, the transportation bridge that spans McCollum's Brook was not usable. So this RFP for design services contemplates that the proponent, CBCL, would design a standalone structure to cross the McCollum's Brook. And that estimate was the estimate I had just referred to. It was in the 680 to maybe 750 range, I think is what the previous director of public works had for doing that sidewalk project. So the actual sidewalk work was only, it was less than, I think, 200,000, and there was like a $500,000 contingency there for the bridge, the standalone bridge. So that's where that estimate came from a few years ago.
Yeah, if I
Okay.
could jump in for a
Yeah.
second too. Sorry. Yeah, if I could just jump in. I think there's obviously there's quite a cost range when you get into the bridges. I think it ranges everything from, like Brian said, in the $500,000-$600,000 range, all the way up to $2 million, depending on the type of similar bridges that have been done elsewhere in the province. You can look at the one in Truro when you come through near the big stop when you're going through the highway. That's a more expensive option, but there are less expensive options. With regards to your question, Councillor Parker, about the usability of the existing structure as an active transport route, it wouldn't meet the current requirement for active transport width of pedestrian travel way. However, the way that these are often dealt with elsewhere would indicate that this, is an improvement over what is there existing, which is currently being used as a pedestrian route. Although, as you mentioned, we don't have the pedestrian traffic counts for it. The other argument, though, that we've heard from residents and others is that the active going between, say, the SO all the way to Dean Sharps is in and of itself a travel route, pedestrian travel route. So there's always the option to ask CBCL, with the successful proponent, to give phased construction estimates for, say, one phase that goes all the way to the bridge, and then one that would include a new bridge structure. So it's food for thought, but I wanted to throw it out there that even though it doesn't meet it today, oftentimes the way municipalities approach this is to look at whether or not it would be an improvement over the existing, and whether or not it makes any sense to have a travel route to nowhere, or the department doesn't usually like that, but it would be going all the way to, say, Dean Sharp's outer body. So just food for thought. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but wanted to
Okay, do you have more questions, Councillor Dave Parker?
I have one more.
Go ahead.
This is to Brian. Do we have a policy on the development of sidewalks in the municipality of Pictou?
We have a yes, we have a sidewalk policy.
Could that be shared with the councillors?
Everybody would have received it a while ago, I'm sure. But yeah, we can certainly share.
Let's call it.
It's on the website.
In light of the answers that I've been given, there's a whole lot we don't know about this here project, including costs and what we will have to do, what we won't have to do, usage, and so on. I therefore move that this motion be tabled until such time as we have completed a survey on the use in this area. I ask for a seconder.
Is there a
I'll
seconder?
second that, Peter.
Okay,
Peter.
Moved, seconded, that we table this till a future date, and so the only thing that's debatable is the length of time to table it to. Is there? Have you put a length of time on that, Councillor Parker?
Well, it would seem to me, in order to have valid information, that we would have to do it over a period of several months. Okay, the winter months are not ideal. Okay, I think we should also include, if we're going to do a survey, we should also include the Westfall Road area. There's also been calls for sidewalks. I'm not opposing the use of sidewalks, but I do want them to be justified. So I'm going to suggest we need to do a survey 2 or 3 hours a week of a person actually standing there and surveying the people that are coming through for a couple hours, several times a month, say in May, July, September, and then we'll at least have some data of how much is being used and if it's justifiable. So I'm going to suggest that until that survey is completed, and that would probably be in the fall of 2020.
2022.
2022, correct.
Okay, so we have a motion to table, and the suggestion of the date is the fall of 2022. And it's only debatable on the length of time to table. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote on the motion to table. I want to be very clear because we've had confusion here the last few times when we're voting on a motion to table, that we are voting on the motion to table only, not on the main motion itself. Is there anybody against the motion to table? Now, be clear, if you put your hand up or vote, you're voting against the motion to table. Is there anybody against the motion to table?
Against?
I am against.
Yes. Against.
Yes.
Okay, so I need the names of those who are against, please. I saw Randy's hand, and I saw Debbie's hand, and Andy's. Who else is against the motion to table?
Larry.
Don?
Larry and Don. Okay, so I have 5 against the motion to table, and there's 11 of us here. So the motion to table is carried by a 6-5 vote. Okay, let's move on to our community announcements. Are there any community announcements? Not much going on in our communities these days, unfortunately, with COVID. Any emergency resolutions requiring unanimous consent? In there, and referrals to committees and council. Are there any referrals? Anything?
Yes, I got one.
Okay, who did I hear first, Peter?
Yes, if I could.
Go ahead.
I've been getting quite a few complaints about the Nova Scotia Power cuts the along the roads underneath the power lines, which is great, do a great job. But on the other side of the road, nobody seems to be looking after. So I have calls all around my district, plus Pictou Landing, and I referred them to Councillor Wadden. But I was just wondering if we could put a letter or something into DOT and ask them, could they do some, because there's places where the trees are growing right out on the side of the road. I'd like to see if we could, send a letter to them and ask for this to be.
Let's not debate it tonight. Let's have it put on for our next property services
Sure.
committee. Okay?
Sure.
That's the idea tonight. Is what we want put on for council or committee, not to get into a debate on it tonight.
No problem.
Who else did I hear on?
I was the other one, Gordon.
Go ahead, Chester.
Thank you. It's the same thing about the cell phone coverage. I spoke about it different times. Maybe sometime later on we could have a meeting or see if we can do something from Lorne to the county line or to Sheet Harbor, because there's a lot of companies out there working and they got no cell coverage, and if there's an accident on the road or anything, there's no way of getting any help out there, okay?
Okay, we can again discuss that one, and hopefully our CAO will have some information on once we have our towers up and get our fiber going. My understanding is that cell phone coverage will greatly improve, but there's no harm in asking the question if there's something we can do in the meantime to help that situation any. But that was one of the 2 aims when we started the high-speed internet project. The other half of it was the cell phone coverage. So, okay, we'll put those 2, both Peters and Chesters on for.
Hello.
Hello. Dave,
David here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an item I'd like to have added. I think it probably should go to property services, but it could go to our meeting on the 29th if we're going to hold that. And it is around the issue of fireworks. We have a family who put on a lovely display of fireworks in our community. It was on Christmas Eve or fairly early in the evening, maybe around 9 p.m. The problem, for 2 years in a row now, when that happened, we had young dogs that ran off due to being frightened. Now, the good news is they were both found the next day, following day. It happened 2 years in a row. And we have at least one resident in the area who has horses, and they went, quote, crazy. And they're quite close to where these fireworks are being set off. So, there's certainly been stories in the news in other areas in our province. It's not an easy one. If it's an easy one, we would have solved it by now. But I think we need to address this issue. So I have to be put on a future agenda.
Okay, any further referrals?
If I could, Warden, it's Betty here.
Go ahead, David.
I just wanted to clarify on Peter's comment for adding to a future meeting. I have not received any calls concerning DOT and cutting trees for the Victor Landing area. I have received one call concerning a private landowner cutting lumber on a private land. Anyways, I'm not getting any calls on DOT doing the cutting, so I just want to put that clarification out there. Thank you.
Okay, any further
Mr.
referrals?
Ward.
Go ahead, Mary.
I just have a question about tabling the sidewalk in Plymouth. Who's going to set up the committee and who's going to do the surveys, and how long is it going to be before we have looking into that?
I think on the motion, it was September 30th or sometime in the fall when the weather's better to do the survey. But I think that would probably, Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would fall under Logan's duties as engineer, I would take it?
Yeah, we'll have to have a discussion on what the best way
Yeah, on the how to, on
Mr.
how
Mr.
to.
Chair, can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Second, Councillor Thompson, until I finish with Mary. Mary, is that answer your question? Your question was who and when?
Yeah, and my concern is if people are walking that road, it's not a certain time of year they're walking it. They're walking it all the time. When they have to go, they have to go. Doesn't matter if it's fall. So maybe we could start the survey right away.
I think that will be a decision of our administration as to when to start it and how to do it, and some of the practical end of it. I think we'll leave with them, and certainly we can bring it up at our committee meetings when they come up with the plan here.
Sure.
Go ahead, Councillor. Sorry,
Thanks.
Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
So I'll just make on Councillor Elliott's point there. I'll make a couple suggestions. You should talk to some of the business owners in the area because they watch it every day, and people use that. You basically, with this tabling of this motion, we're going to do nothing for another year. Basically, that's what this is done. The other option available to us all, and I invite you down, I'll stand with you, is come on down and watch. But don't go down tomorrow when it's -16. Wait till it's +5, and after a heavy rain, it's just like a scene of a Slumdog Millionaire. It's absolutely atrocious down there. And the fact that we're doing nothing right now is an absolute embarrassment for this council. This here study would have
Point of
addressed
order.
a lot of those
Point
questions.
of order. Point of order.
Okay.
Point of order.
Okay, let's leave the debate alone on that. We moved past that. I thought I was adding 2 Marys, but anyway,
don't need someone to tell me whether or not I'm embarrassed.
Any further referrals? Hearing none.
Warden,
Go ahead.
it's Sue Ann. I'm just wondering, I just want to remind everybody that we're looking to put a newsletter out probably around the 1st of February. So if people have something they want to submit, if they could get it to me by the 20th, 21st, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Sue Ann. And the other thing I wanted to mention before we go in camera is our session, our annual planning session, which is scheduled for the 29th, is still a go right now, but we have to wait to see where public health goes on this. I guess we're meeting here tonight virtually. I don't think we want to have our planning session virtually. Last year, we did have to delay that until March. We may be in the same situation. Some are saying that this wave of Omicron or whatever is going to crest very quickly and go the other way, and let's hope they're right. But for now, the 29th meeting, that's a Saturday, is still on. It would be in our council chambers, but only if the restrictions lessen. If not, we will have to look at moving it to March, probably, as we did last year. So I just want people to be aware it's still on for now, but that stay tuned because that could change. Okay, so we come to the end of the agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion to go in camera on the item that Debbie asked to be discussed in camera. Would somebody please make a motion that we go in camera?
It's Larry, I'll move it.
Moved and seconded.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against, I should say. Is there anybody against going in camera?